Okay, so before we even step in to Sekitō's song, this song of the Grass Roof Hermitage, helps to know a little bit about who Sekitō was and what kind of world he was writing from. Sekitō Kisen lived in 8th century China during the great flowering period of Zen Buddhism. And he was a third-generation heir of Daikon Ino, the sixth ancestor, and one of the quiet founders of what would later become the Soto Zen tradition. His name, Sekitō, means stonehead. It's not a nickname built of stubbornness, but of steadfastness and resolve. He lived most of his life in the mountains, teaching from a small hermitage built against a rock, guiding a few students who came seeking the way. And from that hermitage came 2 luminous poems that shaped Zen for centuries. One we chant every week at service. It's called the Sandokai, or the harmony of difference and unity. And the other is this piece, the Song of the Grass Roof Hermitage. If the Sandokai expresses a philosophy of non-duality, then this poem expresses its lived feeling. This is beyond all theory. It's very practical. It's a better practice. It's how awakening breathes through the ordinary, the sound of the wind in the grass, the wind chimes on the deck, the smell of the rice cooking, and the stillness that settles in during long-seated periods of zazen, like we're doing during this Ango. When Sekitō writes of building a grass hut, he's really describing the building of a mind of practice, a mind that's simple, that's transparent, that's free. And each verse invites us deeper, from building to dwelling to letting the weeds grow, to finally realizing in this section that even the distinction between inside and outside have vanished. It's easy to think of this poem as a museum piece, but it's not. It's a mirror that asks each of us, what kind of hut have you built? What do you dwell in? What do you value? What are you clinging to? What are you ready to let go of? So as we move through the verses over these next few days, let the poem itself fade into the background and let your own life come to the fore. You can hear it being sung back to you. Allow your own hut to come in the stark contrast to what Sekitō is saying, and allow it to fade away and fall into the wind. We begin with the opening line. I built a grass hut where there's nothing of value. So like I said, we're not talking philosophically here. We're not opening with doctrine. We're beginning with a depiction, a simple house made of grass, and he's inviting us in. This hut is not really a building in the traditional sense. It's a dwelling of mind itself. It's a dwelling place or the seat of our awareness. When he says nothing of value, he's already overturning our natural order, right? Our way of being in the ordinary world. Because we're all inclined to build very elaborate houses. Houses of ideas, of possessions, of titles. We do all this in the hope that something will last. But Sekitō, this foolish monk, is building a hut on purpose that can't last. It's going to leak. It's going to sway with the wind. Because it has nothing of value, there's nothing to grasp to. And there's nothing to be stolen. This is the heart of practice. To live where there is nothing left to hold on to, nothing to defend. In a way, the hut's very beauty lies in its uselessness. Their world and thoughts obsessed with permanence. Sekitō is daring us to live and dwell in impermanence. He's showing us that the true value is not in what can be owned or displayed, but in our capacity to let go. And when we sit, we're invited to build this same hut, Build it out of what's at hand, simple, breathable, temporary. We don't reinforce the walls of the self. We let the wind come through. We let the rain come through. We allow ourselves to be vulnerable. To dwell in this place where there's nothing of value is to dwell freely. There's no certainties here, and there's certainly no trophies. There's also no story that must be true. It's just a quiet strength that's grounded in presence. The boundless, infinite presence of this moment, of letting life happen and dissolve like blades of grass in the wind. After eating, I relax and enjoy a nap. What a very human continuance. There's an old Zen story of two monks who meet in the wilderness, and they recognize each other. Who do you study with? And the first monk tells them, and he says, well, what can your monk do? Or your master do, rather? And the one boasts that his teacher can write in the air, and the words will apply on will appear on a parchment great distances away, and that he can be in two places at the same time. So he asks the other monk, what can your master do? The other says, my master also performs great miracles. When he's hungry, he eats. And when he's tired, he sleeps. And that's the whole miracle. Sekitō's line is that miracle. After eating, I relax and enjoy a nap. This is about being open. It's not some sort of avoidance. It's actually a full embodiment. The hermit has no split between body and mind. He eats when he's hungry. He rests when he's tired. He's not driven by guilt or ambition or the need to prove his worth. He's present with what is and the imperative that's always implicit in now. We live in a culture, perhaps now more than ever, that idolizes busyness, preoccupation. Even when we rest, sometimes even when we sit zazen, we secretly plan. Sekitō is teaching us the opposite, the fullness of an ordinary moment. Everything becomes sacred. Napping becomes sacred. Because he meets each moment completely, there's no remainder, no self to hold on to. And this becomes the rhythm of the awakened life, doing one thing at a time fully. When we're doing nothing, we're really doing it. We're eating, when we're resting, when we're working, when we're sitting. There's no gap. And it's a radical teaching. It's a radical teaching born of the truth that enlightenment is not hidden in some esoteric or exotic practice in some faraway temple, but in the simple act of being right here where you are, right now, in this body, in this breath. Sekitō continues, when it was completed, fresh weeds appeared. Now the hut's been built, and immediately the weeds arrive in. Any of you who've ever done any gardening, you know that once you finish your work, you turn your back for a day, and life returns in all directions. In this case, weeds, in a way, are our thoughts, our distractions, our restless habits of mind. People who are new to meditation often tell me, I wish I could just stop my thinking. You say, well, of course you can't stop your thinking. Thinking is what minds do, right? Weeds grow in fertile soil. The issue isn't the weeds. It's how we meet them. It's how we name them. It's how we cling to them. Sekitō's not cursing these weeds. He's noticing them. Fresh weeds appeared. Simple statement. No judgment, no drama. There they are. Our task, if there is a task in Zazen, is not to uproot every thought, but to be silently observant of the conditions in which they grow. Where do they come from? What does their life look like? Where do they go when they pass on? Sunlight, water, craving, fear, anger. These are the nutrients that feed our mental weeds. When we understand this, we don't hate them. We're able to open to our thoughts and the conditions and see them as teachers. And as our practice continues and deepens, the garden becomes even more diverse. There's a whole new host of characters and thoughts and ideas. Some weeds even go on to bloom. Some weeds choke other weeds out. We silently attend to them. The awakened mind is certainly not weed-free. It's just intimate with its own ground. Sekitō continues. Now it's been lived in and it's covered with weeds. It's now the hut, once pure and new, is overgrown. And this is still beautiful. It means life is happening and the practice is alive. Our vow as bodhisattvas is that we promise to live among the weeds, among all forms of suffering, all the messy conditions of human life, and not to turn away. Much more than allegorical. Many of you, the longer you follow this path, will see a lot of people turn away. You'll see the many, many excuses that we have to turn a blind eye to our lives or our practice. We're not trying, ultimately, if we're going to continue this practice, to escape samsara. We're going to compost it. So this hut that's overgrown with weeds winds up becoming a field of compassion. A field of compassion, not just for the one who dwells there, but to all who tread on that ground. Every entanglement, every weed, is a chance to wake up, to open to the cause and conditions that put it there, to tend to it carefully. And notice how we can tend to the causal conditions that bring suffering, and we can also, once we're tending well and mindfully, transform that suffering through the simple act, conscious act of our practice. Every entanglement in that sense is a chance to wake up. Sekitō continues, the person in the hut lives here calmly, not stuck to inside, outside, or in between. You notice something shifts here. It's not minor. Sekitō no longer is saying I. He's saying the person in the hut. The self has softened. Perspective has widened. At first, the hermit was the builder. Now the builder is gone. Only the dwelling remains, and the life that courses through it. It's not stuck inside, outside, or in between. It's the freedom of non-attachment. Non-attachment to causes, conditions, non-attachment to the self. Inside and outside are our own human interventions that are meant to prop up this notion of I. We draw boundaries, but you'll notice the wind moves through them with no care or concern. Okay? When we release the obsession with self, with other, we discover what Dogen calls the skin, the flesh, the bones, and the marrow of the way. There's no separation. It's just expressing itself as you, as me, as everything. And in that calm dwelling, there's no practice apart from life itself. No enlightenment to achieve. There's just this, the still center of movement. Living calmly is far from dull. Is a vibrant stillness. When the mind no longer clings, we're back in that fertile field of playfulness, of creativity. Joy arises naturally. Not the joy of a constant excitement, but the quiet joy of harmony, of balance. This is the person in the hut, not a monk hiding from the world, but a being who has ceased to divide it. Hut becomes greater and all-encompassing, even though it's built of simple materials by hand. Sekitō continues, places worldly people live, he doesn't live. So Sekitō draws a contrast here, but it's not with judgment. The hermit simply doesn't dwell in the same mind states that the world calls home. Worldly life is built on preference. This is good. That is bad. I want this. I don't want that. When we spend our days polishing the small self, our opinions, our image, and we wind up calling that life. The grass hat dweller doesn't live there anymore. He lives in a completely different country. It's a country of presence, a place where he lets the weeds be, lets the world spin, and remains rooted in this quiet ground of awareness. And by extension, he continues, realms worldly people love, he doesn't love. This love is a form of attachment that he's referring to, the grasping love that says, mine. The bodhisattva's love is vast. It includes the entire field. But the worldly kind of love narrows. It selects and it clings. When we release that narrow love, our heart expands. Our heart expands so broadly that it includes everything. And compassion flows naturally, not as some ideal, but as a condition of life and being alive. And so the hermit's hut becomes a temple of freedom. Nothing to guard, nothing to prove, nothing to love or hate in the ordinary sense. Only the radiant suchness of things just as they are. Sekitō's message is very clear. Build your hut of simple materials that are always right at hand. Weeds are going to come. Let them grow. Dwell calmly in this abode. And take a look at the structures within you that are impressed by the desires of the world. Don't live there. And when you do, you live a life where nothing needs to be defended. When you do that, your whole life becomes the song. Becomes the song of the Grass Roof Hermitage.